Wop, 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 wop. That fuck 'em up. Wop, 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 wop. I'ma do my stuff. Why you trolling like a bitch? Ain't you tired? Tryna strike a chord, and it's probably A minor. They not like us. 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 They not like us.
Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Reed. Hall will not be joining us today. He's helping out his daughters, taking them to soccer, so he is obviously go do your thing, Mr. Hall. Thank you for joining in the Burgundy Zone. We're part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. Title of this episode is The Gamechanger, so we thought we'd bring in good friend of the show, great guest, very intellectual, knowledgeable on the game of football, let alone the Washington Commanders, and Ryan Fowler. How are you doing on this beautiful Thursday evening, sir?
I'm doing well. Always appreciate you guys having me on.
Yes, sir. And big news came out last week. Sam Fortier was saying and was reporting that Washington has bought the rights to the VR software by Cognilyze that Jayden Daniels used at LSU. He was interviewed with Keyshawn Johnson earlier this week and went into length about how important it was and pivotal to his game. What do you think of Washington buying this VR software? And do you put credence in it that it's actually a really good thing to have?
I love it. I love it. You're using resources to better your players. You know, we talk a lot about in the past where resources could be facilities, it could be nutrition, it could be workout equipment, it could be resources beyond the field. I know mental health has obviously become a huge thing around sports, which is awesome to see. And now this is really that next step to where VR and for Jayden Daniels that he used it at LSU. I mean, he talked about it in a long article by The Athletic as well, as far as just how it helped him in certain scenarios and to where, look, he can prepare himself to see certain defenses before he actually steps on the field at 1 o'clock on game day and prepares himself and actually gets into action. So I absolutely love it. It's a lot like with a baseball player. I know some pitchers do it as well. I have a couple good friends in the minor leagues right now that do it as well. So it's just cool to see it, the resources that are continuing to evolve to help players, specifically at the quarterback position, in my opinion, the toughest position in all sports. I'd love to see it as well with Jayden Daniels now taking every single opportunity that he can to get better. And then Washington also putting in those resources to make everything just that much easier for their new young stud at quarterback.
Yeah, it's interesting because LSU did this with Paul Skeens, the pitcher who was taken first overall, dominated the last year for LSU. He said the virtual realities really would help him because he was at Air Force before that. He was good, but he wasn't number one overall pick good. And all of a sudden, now look at the dude just got called up to the majors. He's playing fantastic. So LSU's got something in the water down there with this virtual reality concept. But Ryan, how do you feel about the left tackle position with the Commanders? I know everybody wanted us to trade back into the first round. Reports were that they tried to. They drafted Brandon Coleman in round 3. What do you think is going to happen there? Are you comfortable? Do you think they bring in a vet? What do you think ultimately happens?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting this summer, guys, as far as cuts. I think cuts are definitely something to keep an eye on around the league. Me personally, last year, I wish they would have gone to Cornelius Lucas earlier. I think he's somebody that's underrated in Washington. That sixth offensive lineman, I think as a whole, is very underrated in the NFL offensive line. I love his ability to play both spots. I know we can sit here and talk about the ability of a guy like Ty Nsekhe that we saw in the past and how important he was. And if an injury were to pop up. But right away, I do expect Brandon Coleman to compete right away with Cornelius and even Braden Daniels right away at left tackle. I know right now it looks like he may play guard. Everything I've heard, guys, is that they do expect him to play tackle right away. And I would love to see it specifically because you look at him from the waist up. He's got that wider type of frame that Cliff Kingsbury has prioritized in his days in Arizona. Now here with Nick Allegretti, Tyler Biotish, they have those wider body types that want to live vertically in the run game, but also the athleticism to get out in space. And he's got great length as well. So I think he's a talented kid. I think the tackle guard versatility is excellent. But it's going to be a question, obviously, Mike, because at the end of the day, if Brandon Coleman is your starting left tackle, then you're throwing in a rookie there, a day 2 pick to protect Jayden Daniels' blind side, which is obviously a question that Washington's going to have to answer sooner rather than later.
Now, do you know anything with Brandon Coleman? was he injured this past season? Because I watched his 2023 film, 2022, like the national championship game against Georgia. He did look a little bit different to me.
Yeah, I'm under the understanding that he had a high ankle sprain that he played on the entirety of the 2023
Okay.
campaign. So if he's now healthy, which I hope so, right, moving into rookie mini camp and into training camp, look, he's going to be back at full 100% strength, and he's going to also, it's going to provide more burst, more explosiveness to get out in space as well. But yeah, Kyle, I'm under the impression, what I've been told from a couple of people down at TCU, is that he played on a high ankle sprain all of 2023. So tough kid as well.
Yeah, I saw a report earlier this week, Ryan, saying that Washington tried to trade up in the first round for a tackle, and everyone pushed him away. But what I find funny about that is they had picks 36 and 40, and they could have easily picked a tackle at 40 if they really were invested in doing that, but they instead traded backwards. So my question to you, sir, is was that trade back from 40, was that a good idea?
I liked it specifically because I think you look at the tackles on day one, they came off fast and heavy. But that tier two of tackles really headlined by your Roger Rosengartens that went to Baltimore, and your Jordan Morgan that went early, right in round one to Green Bay. Of course, was a little bit of a surprise, but that tier two really fell off. And really, if you look at it, Vegas really told you all you need to know as far as the tackle class, because look, they did not take Talise Fuaga, who I fully expected them to take there after conversations with Vegas in this pre-draft process. They took Brock Bowers, and then they doubled back and maybe took a reach in DJ Glaze from Maryland, a tackle on day two that I expected to go on the early portions of day three. So I think Adam Peters overall, guys, top to bottom, I love the additions. I mean, specifically the Jordan McGee addition on day three. I think this kid at 220 pounds is going to surprise people. I mean, we talked about the Temple tough stuff, but the kid's going to be, when he straps up, he just flips a switch. And I can't wait to see this kid play football, because look, we've sat here year after year after year talking about Jamin Davis and trying to pull something out of number 52. And this regime has no ties to anybody. Not alone just Jamin Davis, but the McLaurins of the world, John Allen, Deron Payne. You see Bobby Wagner, you see Frankie Louvu. Now you get a kid like Jordan McGee that can play multiple spots for you, and a Dom Hampton. There's going to be competition for snaps in Washington where snaps are earned. They're never given. And I love that approach now moving into 2024 under Dan Quinn.
Yeah, and if you would ask me now, if would I rather have Cooper DeJean or have Mike Sarenstill and Ben Sinnott adding not only a secondary piece but another weapon for Jayden Daniels and the new quarterback, I think that's a home run hit, in my personal opinion. Sorry, Reed.
Oh no, completely agree. Completely agree there. And I was just about to ask you about Jordan McGee as well. So I'm pumped. I'm pumped on him. What do you think of this undrafted free agent class? Washington brought in some pretty big names. I know that they signed the most beautiful quarterback in the NFL, Sam Hartman, to a pretty decent deal. Who from this undrafted free agent class makes you excited?
Yeah, I mean, every year, right, we see it across the league as far as UDFA's making rosters. I know Tyler Owens athletically, there may not be a guy in the class that parallels him athletically. Now, from a football player perspective, Tyler's got a little bit of a ways to go. A lot of the bull in China shop, just kind of blinders on, running after things. A lot like what I saw from Dallas's day two pick at linebacker, Maris Lou-Fowl. So hopefully that works out for them. That's an interesting pick, in my opinion. But Chigozie Anuzium from Colorado State, I'm not sure if he's going to live at corner or live at safety, but that versatility, I mean, it reminds me a lot of when Dallas took a chance on Israel Mukuamu coming out of South Carolina, played corner, transferred to safety, so that hybrid type of position. But overall, guys, I mean, I sat here a couple months ago. I remember talking to a guy about Colson Yankoff from UCLA. And I know it's a hell of a name, and they signed
My
him.
favorite name. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a hell of a name. As a
Shocker.
UDFA out of UCLA. So, he's going to get a chance as well. But overall, round one, round seven, love the draft. And then getting guys like Tyler Owens. You mentioned Sam Hartman. I would not be surprised if Sam is QB3 for this roster and beats out a guy like Jeff Driscoll or Jake Fromm in the summertime.
I hope that they run a tight end pass like they used to do with Logan Thomas with Yankoff, so that way they can say Yankoff to McLaurin, and I'll be like, Kyle does that all the time.
Oh, come on, man. One of my biggest questions for this, Ryan, is the Adam Peters game plan, because, I was very excited to be able to see how they thought with this draft process, right? And one of the things you could say is the athleticism of the players in the back end of the draft really stands out to you. But if you could kind of attribute not a game plan, but the vision of Adam Peters and kind of the players that he likes, what did you gather from the undrafted free agents and the draft class?
Yeah, I know we can sit here and talk about RAS scores. I know that's maybe a little bit pumped up more in the media than it is with teams, just specific with really deep and behind the scenes as far as thresholds with each position and height, weights, and all that other stuff. But when I look at what Adam Peters, I loved his balance between valuing team need and BPA, because I love the Mike Sanderstill edition, but you could sit here and say, well, where the hell does Quan Martin play? And then you look at Jerzon Newton and you could say, well, Deron Payne and John Allen are on the field. Well, I'm just looking at the football player, and I'm looking at how the defensive tackle position has changed over the years, similar to what tight end has and what Ben Sinnott is going to do in this offense, to where you need guys that flat out can get after the passer at a variety of alignments. And also, Johnny Newton is also going to push John Allen, Deron Payne, because they tried that experiment with drafting Phil Mathis on day 2 out of Alabama. And I'm sorry for Phil, but just flat out has not worked. I know we all in here could say good things about John Ridgeway, and I'm glad he's still in the building. But a guy like Johnny Newton, to where all these guys are competitors at the end of the day, he's going to push 93 and 94 for snaps right away, to where he's not just going to be a rotational piece. He's going to allow Dan Quinn to be extremely exotic up front, to where you could have that bear front that Green Bay runs, where it's 3 down linemen. You got Dorrance Armstrong and Cleveland Farrell standing up on the outside. I fully expect Frankie Louvu to work into more of that Micah Parsons type of off-ball linebacker / edge role this year. 14 sacks the last 2 years combined. So I just really like the ability of Adam Peters to say, look, I know we have our needs. They could have gone perimeter corner potentially on day 2 and grabbed, maybe they like Jerrion Jones on the outside, for example, but they just grabbed high-level football players that are also not just going to wear a jersey, but also produce early on in 2024 and the years to come.
Absolutely love it, Ryan. But we have only a couple more questions for you. Reed, do you want to start off the roundtable?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to get your opinion on Ben Sinnott. I just wanted to know what you think about him. I know I've heard a lot of comparisons to a Chris Cooley type tight end coming in here as a 2nd-round pick. That's some pretty big expectations at tight end in this day and age. So how do you feel about him? How do you think he fits in?
Yeah, I think we look to the past, right? In Washington, we've always had some good tight ends, right? Chris Cooley, remember Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis.
Jordan Reed Alexander back in the day.
Exactly. Even Mike Sellers, big Mike Sellers or Darrell Young, getting after people. Yeah. But when I look at Ben Sinnott, I think he fights the ball a little bit at times. That's something that he can work on. But the alignment versatility and flat out who this young man is, I've had a privilege of really getting to know Ben in this pre-draft process. And you know exactly what you're going to get from him as far as he'll line at H, he'll line it Y with his hand in the dirt. He'll have no concerns as far as blocking. And then he'll also create mismatches to where he's going to force teams to be lighter in the box because he can outrun a slower linebacker and he can go over the top of a smaller safety. So I love the versatility that Ben's going to offer. He's going to learn behind a guy like Zach Ertz and potentially move into next year or the year following to be that tight end 1 in Washington. So athletically, there were more high-level athletes fundamentally in this class. I look at a Jaheim Bell or a Theo Johnson that went to New York. But Ben Sinnott's versatility as a blocker and as a pass catcher is going to expand this playbook in so many ways. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see what this playbook is going to look like under Cliff Kingsbury.
Totally agree. And I only have a couple more questions for you. I'm sorry to bring this in kind of a toxic aspect, but I literally just saw this. Scott Abraham, think of ABC7, had Jay Gruden on, and this quote on Jayden Daniels: "He just can't quit now. You're stuck here in Washington, and you have to get better. How he handles adversity is going to be critical in his success." And I specifically remember in the pre-draft process, you were raving about Jayden Daniels in LSU playing under Brian Kelly, and that's a very difficult thing that's very well known, and that Jayden Daniels was able to work through that and blossom in that sort of environment. So do you have any concerns with Jayden Daniels in that regard? Because I personally do not.
And I'm going to talk about Jay Gruden. He just sounds like the bitter ex-girlfriend.
Doesn't he? It's so weird, Ryan. It's so weird.
Yeah, I'm just tired of the complaining. I'm just tired. Let Washington move forward. Jay Gruden is not coached anymore. We're not sitting at the Richmond bar hanging out with weirdos. You know what I mean? Let's move forward here. Let them play ball. So with Jayden Daniels, guys, focusing on football, away from Jay. Jayden is not a perfect prospect. He was QB3 on my board heading into this process. I would have taken Drake May. But when I look at his game as far as what he is going to do to an NFL defense and force coordinators to stay up late at night and the correlating surroundings that are in Washington with specifically McLaurin Dotson and Brian Robinson in the backfield to turn it off and hand it to him 15 times a game, that's what I like about Jayden's game. Now, can I sit here and say that, wow, protected by Will Campbell and Emory Jones, 2 tackles next year to know, and Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, 40-yard vertical shots, that's easy. Yeah, you can parallel that to what you saw with Hendon Hooker at Tennessee. And I do want to see him work inside the numbers. And I do want to see him more early on inside a structure, win in the shallow to intermediate areas and be efficient with the football. But what no other player has in this class is his dynamic ability with his legs. However, I do get scared a little bit, and I don't want to bring him up, but RG3 back in 2012. And the reason why I say this is because now that's in the past as well. But if Jayden Daniels, unfortunately, knock on wood, were to suffer an injury in his lower half that ultimately took away his ability to do what he does best, and that's create with his legs, and force him to change how he wins under center, which is what we saw from RG3 that ultimately saw his career go downhill. That's what concerns me. Because also, guys, we sat here last year talking about a 6'4", 250-pound Anthony Richardson saying he's got to take care of his body or he's going to be killed. And Jayden Daniels by no means looks like Anthony Richardson. So I'm preaching inefficiency, rhythm, timing throws early on in 2024. Doesn't need to be big, flashy plays. Let the kid get comfortable, put on that VR headset during the week and let him get more comfortable. And then we'll work into allowing him to not be that robot, be that athlete, that Heisman winner that we saw here in 2023.
Absolutely love it. My last question for you, Ryan. Let's just say that Dan Quinn implemented a new rule for the jersey number exchanges. If a rookie wanted a veteran's rookie number, they had to wrestle for it in front of everybody on the field. Straight up legal, no violence, no aggression, anything like that.
Wrestling, oil.
Who's going to win between Mike Sarenstill and Marcus Mariota?
Oh, Mike Sarenstill.
He's a
Absolutely.
dog.
I'm going Mikey Sarenstill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike's, I mean, I won't say anything bad about Mike Sarenstill. I think he's one of my favorite players in the class. Not just for Washington, but really coming into this process. So I would take Mike Sarenstill in that fight. Right.
And usually Hawaiians like Samoans, they're scrappy. They're tough.
They
are.
But
if you're gonna fight one, I think you want to fight Marcus Mariota. No offense to him, but
you're rude. Yeah. But sir, last really quick question: prediction for the season opener. Is there a matchup that you're looking forward to? Do you think that would be really good to see the rookie quarterback at Jayden Daniels, if he does start week 1, who this team could possibly be matching up against?
Absolutely, give me Caleb Williams in the Chicago Bears. Absolutely, I would love to see that. I know the last few years Washington squared off with Chicago in prime time, and it hasn't worked out specifically last year for Washington, which was ugly. We all want to forget about that game. But give me Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams, week 1, under the lights potentially, maybe a Sunday night opener or something like that we haven't seen in a long time, and let the kids go play ball.
Yeah, I remember that from 2012. Went to that preseason game, Redskins versus Colts, and when Andrew Luck and RG3 were there. And unfortunately, that was a preseason. To your point, if that was an opener, that's something to talk about. Ryan, I can't thank you enough for joining us. You do such a great job interviewing Ben Sinnott. I think last week you did a great job with it, sir. If you'd like to plug your social media handle before you get out of here, just in case anyone following hasn't followed you yet, sir.
Of course, I'm on X at _Ryan Fowler, and all my work is at Bleacher Report in the Draft Network.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Have a good weekend, man.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys.
See you, bye. All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Ryan Fowler. Always appreciate his time being able to come on with us, talking some ball.
Ryan's so good, especially when it comes to draft prospects. You don't even have to give him any prep beforehand. You just ask him anything, and he knows everything about everybody.
Well, I love this Jay Gruden quote. That was actually really good. Now let's get into some fan questions if we are joined by our next guest here. Don't know 100%.
If our next guest doesn't show up, I swear to God, I'm going to fight him.
Sure you are. Now, here's the question from the Colonel. Here's a hypothetical for you guys. I'm sure Adam Peters maintains close friendships back in San Francisco. Being the wheeler dealer he is, any likelihood of luring Trent Williams back to D.C. for the twilight years of his career? Or do you think he wants to stay in San Fran for a possible ring? The obvious discussion I'm looking for is, it would clear up our left tackle issues, but would it take a king's ransom?
Yeah, look, Trent's my favorite player. Honestly, probably of all time. I love Trent. I've always loved Trent. He's not. I mean, unless it's the very, very tail end of his career, I just don't see it, and that sucks. But I think, you just look at where San Fran is, where he's at in his career. I think he really wants a ring, and he deserves a ring. Trent's been the best left tackle in the NFL. He was so underrated when he was here. It's crazy, and fans knew for a long time that he was the best left tackle in the NFL. I think he's going to go out there and get a ring, and like I said, if he does come back, I don't really see it, but if he did, it would be very, very end of his career, last year or two.
Yeah, if he wants to have a ring, it's going to be probably here in Washington. Because look, you could stay in San Fran, but guess what? We're here now, and we're on the way up, dude. So, but honestly, Colonel, I don't think it actually would take a king's ransom. Because what is the reason why they were hypothetically thinking about trading away Debo and Brandon Ayuk? It's because of the contract situation. Trent's getting paid a heavy amount. He's getting up there in years. It wouldn't be a crazy thought to say that they might want to unload that contract, and Washington actually has quite a bit of cash on their hands to be able to give away, you know? And so it actually would be a very smart decision to do by Adam Peters and company. Obviously, would Trent kind of be upset about it? Of course, but we'd have to show to him that we're about to start winning some football games. I know Vegas just came out and they put the over-under at 6.5 at the moment, but look, everyone has their own opinion, and I like being the the island of misfit toys, so to speak, and nobody really giving us a chance. And that's what Washington is. That's what Washington was born into, right? That's our 3 Super Bowls. No one was giving us a chance. Even when we were good in those times, they still weren't respecting us enough to call us one of the best. But I love Trent Williams, and I'm not going to say no to Trent Williams ever. I would absolutely love for him to come here, because the one thing we always said was he was the best left tackle in the league. And we always said it's because he's here in Washington, he's not getting that admiration. He's not getting that credit. Well, he's now gotten that credit. So how about you come back home now when you have that tag on you being the best left tackle in the league, and we'd love to have him back, man. I absolutely love the Razorback, and hopefully he does return. Now, the next question.
I wish my brain worked like yours.
It
I
doesn't.
wish I could just be like, we're closer.
I would be warped. I would be warped. The next question from the Colonel read: new owner, entirely revamped coaching staff, the number 1 roster turnover in the league from last season. Though disappointing, multiple sports betting forecasts have Washington hovering at 6.5 wins next season. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun. Which scenario is more likely? 6.5 wins or a breakout season like the Texans last year?
I think you just, with all the excitement, you know what? I'm just going to say it. I'm going to pull Kyle. I'm going to say breakout season like the Texans. I'm fully drinking the Kool-Aid, baby. You know, you got so many playmakers. I know that the people are concerned about the offensive line. They fixed a lot of the offensive line, at least they should have. I know left tackle is still a question. Hey, is what it is, but you get an electrifying quarterback out there that can throw the ball to Terry McLaurin, that can throw the ball to Jahan Dotson, that can hand the ball off to Brian Robinson, that can hit Ben Sinnott, who's, going to be Chris Cooley 2.0. You get this revamped defense with Bobby Wagner and LeVue. You get this fantastic rotation of defensive line guys. You've got a bunch of bodies in the secondary. You got a bunch of people on 1-year deals that are prove-it deals that are you're a high draft pick, or you've got crazy athleticism, you've got crazy traits, or you're an undrafted guy who made a team and now you're coming here and you're signing a 1-year deal. Prove it to me that you deserve to be on this roster. And those guys are hungry, and that's the best kind of dogs you want. So you're going to get out there, and Washington can do that. I'm going to go with Washington can take a Houston Texans-esque run.
I wholeheartedly do. In the pre-draft process, I said, Jayden Daniels has the highest ceiling, but it probably has the lower floor just because of that injury concern. But Jayden Daniels offers the ability with his legs to be able to be very impactful from the start, much more so than Drake May did. But in this breath, I do think it's more likely that Washington could be that team. We saw it with RG3 in 2012. And going into that 2012 season, nobody was picking Washington to go on a sort of run like that. Obviously, Washington is not built like the Texans. We can agree on that. And the turnover does add more weight on it, because you ultimately have a bunch of different moving parts here being slammed into one trunk, so to speak. You got to make sure everything works, and it's hard to do in a short amount of time. But that being said, we also have one of the really good coaching staffs, and just talking about position coaching staffs. And I said this early in the offseason, if you could ask me to have like a top tier coordinator and have lesser tier position coaches, I think that's worse than what Washington has. If you're going to talk about having the defensive coordinator be on the same tier as the position coaches, that's a recipe for success in this sort of situation. Then having guys like Bobby Wagner and company, that's like the kind of game changer in this aspect, because you have that leader on the field. You have that coach on the field to help those young guys on defense to kind of stabilize things. That's one thing that they've needed. And so having that offense with Jayden Daniels, if you do catch fire, very, very good chance of that. So I know I'm always a homer, and I'm going to stick to it. I always will be. And I wholeheartedly think that is the case. Now, the next question that we have is from Andy Burrows on Twitter. The Bridge.
Oi.
Oi! How tarnished is our fan base, Reed? Some, no matter what, will literally moan about anything, just because it's all they have ever known, unquote. It's the best draft in years, but let's go crazy about jersey numbers.
That's just, look, Washington fans, one thing I will give them is they love to fight. Is that a good thing? No, probably a character flaw, but they'll fight about everything. You see Drake May versus Jayden Daniels. You see Jayden Daniels versus Tress Way. You see just it's always even you go back to the quarterback controversies back in the day. I mean, you're looking at Sonny Jurgensen. You're looking at like those days. Like it's always been there. And these guys, just is what it is. But you know what cures that? I know a lot of people are going to say winning. I don't think so. I think what cures that is changing the name to the Red Wolves. What do we do? I'm just kidding. No. Yeah, you got to win, man. That's all. That's all it takes.
Who was the dude that put out the tweet that said he was sleeping, woke up in the middle of the night with the urge to howl, and he went downstairs and howled very loud? Do you remember that tweet way back in the day? I forget
No,
who
but
that
I
was.
hope
That
that
was one of
was
the
serious.
weirdest things I've ever seen on Twitter.
Perhaps he liked the name Red Wolves, or perhaps he is part Wolfman.
It's very
Maybe
true.
in the middle of the night on a full moon he changes.
Yeah, but Andy, in my opinion, I think Washington is a kind of a microcosm of the country. And so a lot of people just feel like their voice isn't heard. There's one high profile person who said to somebody in my industry, "I don't work for you." And so this is kind of an extension of that, in my opinion, where they're seeing things getting taken away from them and they don't have a voice to be able to say stop. Like we like that. But in the same breath, I do understand and say that we also have to be adults here and understand that this is out of our control. And as much as we would love to be able to still have those memories aren't going away of the Redskins. Those memories with your parents, with your loved ones, your friends, they're not going away. They'll always be there. You could, this is a Redskins jersey. That's a Redskins jersey. I'll wear the logo all day. I wore it on Juan's podcast. So all I'll say is, it feels like a lot of the fan base is just in a position where it's just a culmination of a lot of things happening, and this is the one outlet that they can voice that frustration without a mob of bots coming after them. And so I understand why they feel the way they do, and it's a really stressful situation for everyone involved. But at the end of the day, it's just the name of our favorite team playing football. And that's all I care about. And I understand I shouldn't be portraying that on other people. But honestly, dude, like, I don't care. I've told you guys this before. We could be the turkey gobblers. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. They could change the colors. I'm still going to go and watch the football team. I'm still going to do film breakdowns. I'm still going to be talking about how Terry McLaurin's the most elite wide receiver in the NFL. I really don't care about that other stuff. And I know other people do. But at the end of the day, what do you love? Do you love the team name or do you love the game of football? And for me, it's the game of football. And so it's kind of hard for that. But I think Washington altogether, we are a very polarizing fan base. And we take things very, very seriously, very passionate. And I can understand why people feel like they are in a sinkhole, so to speak, or quicksand with everything that's going around. And not to get too political and everything like that, but you know what I mean.
No, it was just sinkhole to Mayo. Then also there's that guy, that fucking dude, that piece of trailer trash that was coming at you on Twitter, who started saying, he was like, I would take losing seasons for 20 years if it meant we could change the name. What the fuck are we talking about here, dude? The hell kind of a comment is that?
And that's my fault, everybody. That was a moment of weakness on my behalf, and that won't happen again.
That was funny though.
I just need to quit with that stuff, man. Who cares? Now the next question that we have is from Brant on Twitter. Read: everyone keeps talking about left tackle, but no one really mentions right tackle. It's been unspoken on most channels. Who do you think starts right tackle? I say Lucas right tackle and Coleman at left tackle.
I think you may see that at some point through the season, depending on Coleman's, how he develops, if he does develop. Because just because the guy was a third-round pick, I mean, you see starters all the time in the draft who are picked in the middle late rounds. All of a sudden, they come in there and they can start. So who knows? These guys seem to know what they're doing when it comes to the draft. But I still think Andrew Wiley starts a majority of the season, which is all right. I know that he gave up a good amount of sacks last year. I know that the offensive line as a whole was bad, but he's a guy. You know what I'm saying? And I'm okay with Andrew Wiley starting that as long as, they play better overall as a unit. But I think you could possibly see that at some point during the season, that exact lineup that you said.
Yeah, I like the way that you broke that down, Brant. But I do think it'll be flip-flopped. And the reason why I say that is look at the Arizona Cardinals last season. They had DJ Humphries, right, who who was at left tackle. They drafted Paris Johnson in the top 10, and he played right tackle, which tells you NFL teams much more are comfortable with having that veteran presence as your left tackle. Not saying Cornelius Coleman is not as good as Lucas or whatever. It's just the comfortability factor there, and obviously Coleman could beat him out easily. But when I watch Coleman, he actually is not bad at right tackle. His footwork is actually pretty good. And so I would almost feel like you would feel really good about Coleman starting at right tackle as a rookie. Now, let's say that he does produce very well at right tackle, and then next season, that's when you kind of, or throughout the season, you kind of make that transition if you need to. But I wouldn't put out the realm of possibility of possibly going to pick somebody up after June 1st cuts just to have the depth there, because with Andrew Wiley, I feel really good about Andrew Wiley in the backup sense. Same with Trent Scott. I think that's a very good, not a very good, but you feel comfortable in that sort of setting. And I'm not going to say that, obviously, if they started the whole season, that might be something a little bit different there. But I think Cornelius Lucas, I said this just like Ryan did. I felt like Cornelius Lucas coming back was more of a need than it was to bring back Leno. No disrespect to Leno, which is I really like Cornelius Lucas and the way that he plays the game, and he's very good, and you can feel supportive and stable with him there. And that's just my personal opinion. Reed, this next question is for you. The Fly Guy specifically told me this question was for you. He said, "Good morning, brother." He said, "Since Reed always says you love dudes, I got to mess with you. Someone's willing to pay you $10 million and put it in your account in 1 hour after you complete the conditions. Make a sex tape with any dude you pick, but everyone you know watched it."
Damn. So we got to pick a dude?
You don't have to. Would you do it for basically? Would you do it for $10 million as long as you got to pick the dude? And it can't be me.
Oh, well, it can't be you. What the hell? No, dude, because
it can't be Sam Hartman either. He's too young.
If I'm doing it,
don't Drizzy Drake this.
Does it have to be a football player?
No.
Okay, you guys are so bad. I can't believe you're making me do this. What the heck? I don't want to answer this question. Honestly, probably, I don't know, give me fucking Henry Cavill. I don't know. What?
Is that Superman?
I don't know what you're talking. I didn't say anything.
I don't even know his name. You're ridiculous. No. Nah, man, I wouldn't take that, man. I don't need, honestly, I'm wealthy as it is.
Wait, what do we get out of it again?
10 mil.
Oh, dude, I'd do it for, I pay 10 mil, I'll still do it. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not.
I wouldn't do it, man. In the biblical sense, being wealthy is being able to see God's blessings and everything. And so I'm already wealthy.
Yeah. But you can't buy a jet ski with God's blessings.
That's fair, but
you know what I'm saying? You're gonna see me fucking rocking the waves and barely able to get off because I can't move my lower half. Meanwhile, you know. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I guess I'm not even gonna say what I want to say right now.
Why, you were about to pick a dude? I knew it. I knew you were going to.
I was gonna say Brittany Griner. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. That's very rude. That's not cool.
God. Oh, that's true. T's count.
Dude, come on.
Oh yeah. What? They're men.
Let's go to our next fan question. This one is from Tim Towner. The talking heads get caught up in groupthink during the run-up in the draft and have a tendency to be out of the loop on draft day. Who is the one player you think missed the most on? The talking heads would say these players are falling down the board, like Cooper, DeJean, and then Newton as well.
So, I'm sorry, what was the question again? It was just...
Who is the one player you think that everyone missed the most out on?
Just like that we picked?
Or anybody, because he's saying like the talking heads would say these players are falling down the board, like Cooper DeJean, Zon Newton.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna go from the guys that we picked. I think that a lot of people were sleeping on Jordan McGee, and I didn't know too much about Jordan McGee before he was picked. It's just when you look at like as soon as he was picked, Charles Davis instantly goes, within 2 years, this guy's going to be a starter for the Commanders. Mark my words. And like just hearing all the things about him, like. He fell into a perfect situation with like Bobby Wagner and these guys. Like, who better to learn from as an NFL linebacker into today's NFL? So I think that somebody like that, it's just prime. It's just a perfect position, and it's like he's got the talent, he's got the ability. I'm surprised I didn't know more about him before we picked him. I always saw his name on scouting reports and stuff. I just never looked too much into him, and I think that Jordan McGee's really got the talent, fell into a great situation.
I think the easy answer to this is obviously Johnny Newton. He is a freak of nature. He's an alien. He literally just disrupts everything, and I'm very comfortable with where he's at. The D-line rotation that we are going to have this season, if Jonathan Allen isn't moved, is going to be incredible. And
Yeah.
just given the fact of what also we have at DN, what was signed, Clelin Ferrell, Dante Fowler Jr., Dorrance Armstrong, right? And then talking about Jonathan Allen, Jerron Payne, Johnny Newton, having John Ridgway is there, F.A. Obata there as well. But the hard answer, I'll say Mike Sainristil. I think Sainristil, it's funny because the Eagles traded up for Cooper DeJean, and we traded back. We were able to get Ben Sinnott and Mike Sainristil. And so it's going to be this kind of parallel storyline between Philly and Washington, which quarterback is going to be more productive. And I'd be willing to bet just based on what the NFL is in the sense of, like, everyone looked at Terry McLaurin in the pre-draft process in his draft and said that, third round pick. Even Jay Gruden said he was a special teamer, right? But people miss out on those. And I think Sainristil has the makeup mentally, has the work ethic mentally, has the communication skills as a defender, has the playmaking skills, has the athletic background as a wide receiver to come in and do a very good job, especially knowing what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr.'s defenses have produced with DBs in the past. So without a doubt, I'll say Sainristil. I think a lot of teams are going to be kicking themselves down the line once Sainristil and his defense start to get rolling. I think that's probably a better one to say.
You know who said something interesting, just talking about the Eagles, their draft. First of all, I like the Eagles, obviously. The Eagles always seem to, but Nick Wright brought up a good point about that, where he was like, Howie Roseman misses as much as every other GM. He was like, everybody always says that he's this mastermind. He is when it comes to trade, obviously. I mean, the dude always gets stuff for a bargain, but like, it does kind of seem like every pick almost gets graded an A by the media, and it's because it's almost like he's following the media's boards on who is. So, and then it's like you don't really get a chance to go back and revisit these drafts that they got A's all the way through immediately following the draft, and it's kind of, it makes sense. He said something about one of the guys that they picked, and he was like, I picked him, and I know that Charles Davis or Daniel Jeremiah or something is going to be super pumped because I saw him on his show the other day, and it's kind of like that's why you moved him up. That's okay. All right, Howie. All right.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a while. With that, because I was saying, like, yeah, Howie Roseman does really well with trades. Like, I've been talking about this with the Steelers as
he
well.
always gets steals.
Like, the Steelers used to, back in the day, they used to draft crazy, dude. They would get, everybody would hit.
They always had wide receivers too.
Yeah, James Harrison, obviously, coming like undrafted free agent type of stuff. Like, they always did a good job at it, but not like as of late. The Eagles, A.J. Brown, Darius Slay, it's all via trade, getting veterans in there. And so I do think the one conspiracy there I have is I saw it on draft day play out perfectly. The report comes out in the media that a lot of teams or executives are high on next year's draft. After round 3, there's a drop-off in talent. That was what was reported during the draft. A lot of teams were saying that there's a drop-off in talent after round 3, and next year, because the NIL deals is going to be very heavy in production and talent all throughout the draft. So teams are really looking to be able to get more picks in the future. Then Howie goes and trades back like 3 or 4 times, getting extra picks for next year, and everyone starts applauding it. Oh, based on the report that we just heard, that's a great move by Howie. And it's almost like Howie is feeding them the info. Then once that info's out, then he does it to get the praise for the info that was supplied. So what's the old saying? You don't bite the hand that feeds you. So it seems like Howie is feeding a lot of info out there, and so a lot of teams don't want to grade that poorly. But I'll just say this. I just hope it pays off for him, because we're about to kick his ass, and we're going to get him fired.
That's also like why it seems like every year it's like that somebody drops down the board and they're like, the Eagles got him. How did we let this guy fall to the Eagles again? It's like because the rest of the league wasn't as high on him as they were, like Nakobe Dean.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's like he's right there. He's the big name. That's what I was going to. But anyway, I mean, I can say what I want about how he's obviously been like the best GM in the NFL for the last however many years. Like the dude knows what he's doing. Clearly, it's just interesting because like I never thought about that, and I never agree with Nick Wright, but I was like, damn, that's pretty true, man.
Perfect point. You are correct about that. Except Nick Wright has always been somebody. His funny thing is I like him better with his long hair. Weirdly enough.
Yeah, he looks like such a hippie.
He does. That's why you like him. The next question from Big Tony Shivers in the Discord: if you could pick the home opener opponent, who would you select?
You know what, dude? You know who's been pissing me off a lot lately? Giants fans. Give me the Giants. Let's see what old Daniel Jones can do up here against this new Washington team. Give me the Giants. I don't care if it's boring. I just want to smash the Giants and shut them up.
You want the Giants? I think
I'll
this is
take the
very,
Giants.
very easy for myself.
Oh yeah, I know where you're going.
I'm
For
going with the
sure.
Cowboys
Yeah.
and just be the reunion of I know that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. They got to be pissed off. They got to be pissed off at Dallas. Dorrance Armstrong leaving and coming here, and so that by itself. And so I would love to be able to see Josh Harris and company, Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr. come into week 1 and just blow the doors off the Cowboys, who Vegas is picking to win over 10.5 games. Yep,
Right.
possibly, maybe Washington does select in the top 10 next year. Very likely that could happen. But it's also very likely we could blow the doors off the NFC East opponents. And so I would love to be able to see that opening game against Dallas, that revenge tour type of thing against the Cowboys. Because Jerry made the very, very, very poor mistake of keeping the green monster from Ghostbusters as his head coach.
Slimer.
Yeah,
Yeah, but also like who knows Mike McCarthy's offense now better than Dan Quinn and Joe Witt.
you're right.
They went up against it every day in practice for the last what, 4 years?
And nobody would know how to block Minka Parsons better
Yeah.
than those two, right?
Right.
I mean, that's a
Yeah.
really good point there. And also, they I think they kind of helped with Al Harris, too, so that'd be another notch in the old belt there. Next question. This one's from Tim Towner. We are headed to most likely the largest player turnover in the league this year. Of the remaining Ron Rivera vets, who is most likely to not make the final 53?
This is a lazy answer because I think everybody's saying it, but I mean, De'Ami Brown. It's just he's flashed, and I liked when he slept, obviously, but you don't really see much else from him other than that game. Was it against the Lions? I think where he went out, he played well, and it's just they're getting new bodies in there, man. I mean, I like what Jamison Crowder did last year more so than I like what De'Ami Brown did last year. I think he offers more too in terms of special teams. You brought in Luke McCaffrey as a 3rd-round pick. I think that it's just the days they're numbered, and that sucks because I do like De'Ami. But who knows? Maybe this motivates De'Ami. Maybe he goes out there and he tears it up.
Yeah, I agree with you. And with Diami, I feel bad for Diami because honestly, last year I thought was
So do
really
I.
his time to be able to do that with Sam Howell. It just sucked because the offense altogether was just inept. And Jayden
Right.
Daniels said to Keyshawn Johnson, balance is very important. And of course it is. And I agree with that. And I said a lot last season, you got to throw the ball to score and then you run to win. And I do honestly believe that in the kind of microcosm sense, especially with what he was coming from in Kansas City. That's what the Chiefs do, man. They truly do that a heck of a whole lot, and they're good at it. But in my honest opinion, who is the one player I think there's a very easy answer. I think it's Fedarian Mathis. And very lackluster. A lot of people, a lot of talking heads out there in our own community were saying Fedarian Mathis is gonna be a baller. Y'all just wait. And all right, man, let's wait. Let's see, man. Still waiting on that, by the way, and I haven't seen it. But the other obvious one would be Jamin, just because the knucklehead aspect of all this is very obvious in my personal opinion. But it's kind of weird to see how much turnover has happened in one season. It is like they came in with a plan to be able to do it and knock everybody out of the park, and seems to be the case at this point. Now the next question from Yam Sensei. With the new kickoff rule changes, Reed, who do you see being our new kick returner, or does it default to Crowder still? I would think we need someone with a bit more juice as well as hands.
Yeah, that's something that I was interested in during the draft. Anytime I would do mock drafts in the mid to late rounds, I would try to take a guy who doubled as a kick returner, But yeah, I mean, I know that Crowder doesn't get people excited, but it's definitely better than Dax Milne back there. And I think that as of right now, probably, but I mean, who knows? I haven't looked into too many other people on the roster at this point, so I wouldn't necessarily know. I would assume Crowder, but I'm also just a big fat dumb guy, so I don't know.
Don't sell yourself short, man. You're a
Yeah,
smart,
that's
big,
true.
fat, dumb guy.
Thank you.
Well, no, you know what I meant.
Yeah,
I do think Crowder has the leg up just because of he does not drop the ball. And obviously that's rule number 1. But you also, Yam, to your credit, you want explosion. You want that threat. That's why they took Mike Sainristil in the 2nd round as a DB. Because of the threat, if he does get the ball in his hands, that you got to be able to go tackle him because he can return it for 6 with his wide receiver background. This would be a great situation for somebody like Diami Brown to be able to walk in and say, I can help you in the kick return special teams kind of game with the changes. But I think Crowder is a very good one there that could easily fit. I would love to see Brian Robinson back there one time. I mean, seriously, imagine having to stop Brian Robinson on a kick return. Just
Yeah, that would be terrifying.
literally just running everybody. And especially you're talking about special teamers, not even like all pros, not even veteran. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's going to be a problem for somebody.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to be in front of that. I'll say that right now. There was a one video I saw on Twitter of it was like, what would you coach to number 2? And it's like a sweep to the outside, and this guy number 2 on DB literally just gets out of the way, just runs to the right, he throws his arm out like this, almost like Jatavion Sanders blocking somebody. And that's exactly what I would be like if I saw Brian Robinson running at me full speed. You know, I'm probably selling myself short because I probably would just sacrifice my body in front of him, let him just like a speed bump sort of thing, just slow him down a little bit.
You would let him put an apple in your mouth.
I knew it. I shouldn't have said that. I knew it.
Sacrifice your body for him. That's what you would pick for the video.
Now, the next question from Deluxe in the Discord. The NFL stands for not for long. All but one of Washington's 2020 draft class has a contract to play in the NFL season. None for Washington. Can you discuss the importance of having a plan for a drafted player?
Yeah, I mean that's the big you hear all the time about guys getting drafted to the wrong teams and in the wrong situations. I mean you have to have a plan when you're drafting a player. And that's for every player. Whether it's Jayden Daniels up there at number 2, you have to have some form of plan in place with how you're going to use him, how you're going to bring him along, how you're going to adapt him to the playbook, how you're going to get him comfortable with the guys around him. To somebody like a Jordan McGee, you know, how long you're going to wait to get him on the field. Are you going to make him play special teams first? What are you going to do? So it's very important, and the good drafting teams do that. The good drafting teams have a plan in place for a guy, and I think that just watching the way that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn reacted to all these picks, I think that they do have a plan in place because they know these guys inside and out, and I think that you got to feel very comfortable with that, and knowing that Adam Peters coming from San Francisco. You see some of these guys start to break out a little later on in their careers in San Francisco or towards the end of their rookie contracts, and it's because they followed a plan, they stuck with it, and all of a sudden you get a Chartavius Ward, you know?
Well, we also have to imagine here, Arch, that in the NFL altogether, every single team, like keeping the draft picks from 2020, that's going to be a hard feud between because of how much turnover you have in the NFL. Who was it? Was it Warren Sapp? Somebody said, like, or it was Fred Smoot on the command center talking about you have, like, next season 500 guys coming in here, and they're wanting to be able to get into this position looking for your job anyway, right? So you have to take it seriously. I don't think it's much more so about having a plan. I think it's about having the good structure of the organization. Because there's no disrespect to the players that were drafted in 2020. What has transpired from 2020 till now is unprecedented for any team in the NFL, let alone Washington. It was kind of insane, the storm that happened during that time. And can you honestly say that they were put in the best position because of everything that was happening? Yeah, I think you could give them the benefit of that doubt. So, yes, of course, you go in with every player saying you have a plan. Like, I'm sure they had a plan for Fedarian Mathis, but his lower body injury really set him back, and already having 2 defensive tackles here that we ended up paying, that kind of ruined everything, right? And so it's not much more so about the plan. It's much more so about having the structure, having the cohesiveness, the one mindset to say, we know what this guy can do. We're going to get him implemented, and this is what's going to be in the future. I don't think it's so sophisticated like that of having a plan for each and every guy. It's just having a good environment for everyone to grow in and to be able to produce winners and having the same mindset. Next question from Deluxe. Over under for jersey number reveal. May 25th? Or he said 25.5.
I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say under. I'm going to say it's going to be, what's 7 days before that? I don't know. What 7 days before that is. May 18th. That's what I'm going with. That's my final answer.
Today's the 9th, so you're going under.
Sure. I don't know. I don't know anything about betting.
Oh, like honestly, dude, I don't know, Deluxe. Whenever the jersey numbers get revealed, they get revealed. I know somebody commented on our last video, like, what's so dumb about the jersey numbers? It's not like, I understand for the players that is incredibly important. I just think for the fan base, like, what do you? I understand you want to buy a jersey, but like, to the point where you're like stressing out about like, when are they going to give us a jersey reveal? It's like, come on, man. It's coming. They have to give you the jersey numbers at some point, dude. It's not like they're just going to keep you in the dark the whole time. Yeah. It's okay. Just wait. Hold your money for right now. They're going to give you those, and they're going to make sure that they're going to help you out long term. Reed, I know you said you got to go, brother. So thank you for joining me as long as you possibly could. You are a freaking champion, brother.
I am a champion. I mean, you know what? I don't want you to get that. I am Kendrick Lamar. I did win today. You know what I'm saying?
You did win today. You did.
Thank you.
Good job, bud.
All the time, dude.
All right, man.
Could you imagine being Drake right now? That's so funny.
I heard his record. I heard his record label reached out to them and said, "You guys got to stop. You guys got to stop."
Allegedly, yeah, they've been trying to, and that's why it's so funny to me.
You see Nick Cannon's interview? Like,
No,
I think it was years ago. But basically, he goes on this rant and saying there's grown-ass men hanging out with 15 teenage-year-old girls. And he's like, there's too many. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. And when I saw that video, I was like, heck yeah, Nick Cannon.
That's that whole thing. I mean, I don't doubt that for a second. That fucking thing it's insane. There was a TikTok.
I saw that Ruby Rose when she was 20 or 21. Yeah. She had that interview. She said that she hooked up with 21 Savage. She hooked up with Travis Scott. Who else? My goodness, I'm missing somebody else. But basically basically at that time she was around 15, 16 years old.
Yeah. And
it's a whole industry, bro.
Did you see that TikTok where that dude was like, honestly, like low key, I kind of want Drake to win. He was like, even though I'm from Toronto, he's like, because there was nothing worse than when there was a hot girl that was in your school that you had a crush on, and then you see a Snapchat story of her at Drake's mansion party, and you're like, okay, well, cool. Now I don't have a chance, and it's like, people in Toronto have to worry about that. Cody, it's so funny.
Oh man, everyone's snitching on him, and he doesn't even get it. I think Joe Rogan's quote on it is so freaking funny, because Drake's like, I don't have a mystery child, I don't have a shadow child, and Joe Rogan's like, well, dude, being a dad is not a bad thing, but what about the other stuff?
Yeah, well, that was the funniest part when the Meet the Grahams got released. Instantly, Drake's first response to that was, I don't have a child. Can somebody point her out to me? It's like, okay, that's cool, maybe. But you gonna address any of this other stuff, dude? You got called like a sex trafficker, and you're not worried about that right now?
He fell into my trap, Reed. He fell into my trap.
Dude, that thing, I watched that happen. That's why I've been so into this, but that's why it's so funny when he was like, yeah, I set that up. First of all, if you set that up, you would have made like a following track instantly to go back to Kendrick and make like the text messages of you getting that, or the audio at the beginning of the song to be like, yeah, we got you. Look, we got you. Second of all, Drake wasn't worried about it. I watched it happen in real time. He was so worried about the daughter thing, even went and talked to academics about it. And then literally somebody posted, was like, what if this whole thing was just a plot by Drake and they really got Kendrick? And then Drake liked the comment. And then next thing you know, it's like, yeah, actually, no, we did do that. Joke's on you. And you would have put more than 5 bars in your song about it. That would have been like your entire song. Like, you're an idiot. Check your sources, dude. You wouldn't have just rapped about it real fast and then brushed over it and went to the other thing. I don't know. It's just so funny watching all this. It's so funny.
I put it on Twitter. I put it on Twitter, and I had to delete it late. I deleted it later. But basically, guys, I mean, Drake wasn't like born in the rap game, so to speak. Like, he was born in Hollywood.
He had a bar mitzvah, dude.
Yeah, he was born in Hollywood, so you have to, like, I don't mean like literally born in Hollywood. I'm saying like his career just in show business was in Hollywood, and typically to be able to get into that realm, you either got to be one or two things, and we kind of know that by now, and so you can't really be surprised with all this stuff being said. Like, it's kind of par for the course. The shoe fits, you know.
I am also going to say there is a rabbit hole where a former entertainment lawyer has a blog that he posts on anonymously, and he's been saying for years about Diddy, about Drake, all these people. The stuff he said about Diddy did come true, and all those things. I'm just saying, I don't know if it's true or not. Look into it. That's all I'm saying.
Just look into it. That's all I'm saying. All right. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Reed, thank you for staying for a little bit longer because you got so animated about this whole rap beef. I didn't know you were so invested.
Dude, I was so invested. I've been a DJ for the last 15 years, a hip-hop DJ. And I love Drake. I do. I love his music. I like Kendrick Lamar a million times more, and I have for a very long time. And it's just so funny.
You know, I've said this for a while with Drake, like, just stop singing, dude. Like, I like Drake's music. Like, when he did the first Wayne track that they did, oh my goodness, now I can't think of it now. The first one they did, it was absolutely amazing stuff. But then, like, you start singing this, that's when you lose me, man. And, like, that's what I mean. Like, he kind of makes music for a certain sex. And so it's like kind of weird for me. Like, I don't know how I can listen to that and be like, yeah, that's sick, dude. Like, I like a certain version of it. I will say this, ever since this has popped off, I want to go, my favorite song by Kendrick is DNA. And so everything's starting to make a little bit more sense now.
Yeah.
It's like, who are you talking about, Kendrick?
It's so funny too. Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. They've been sending subliminal shots at each other for years.
Well, I'm just glad that somebody said something, and like Nick Cannon and stuff. If it really is that rampant and legit, I'm glad it's finally shedding a light on it, man. Because somebody needs to. It's very, very weird with all that stuff happening, and that's a generation of kids that are very warped, so to speak, and that's not okay. Predatory type guys.
The funniest, real fast before I leave, the funniest thing Drake said was on the Heart Part 6, when he responded, which was just a defense track the whole time, but he was like, I didn't do those things that you said with girls. He's like, I'm too famous. If I did, I promise I would be in jail. It's like, yeah, because that always happens. You've never heard of Michael Jackson or Jeffrey Epstein. It didn't take them years for people to come out. Like, just because you're famous means that you can't do that stuff with. Okay.
Yeah, I know. There's a certain game that's played. And the roast of Tom Brady was amazing. Everyone booing Kim Kardashian to the point that Netflix had to delete it out.
Yeah,
I find that hilarious. It's a roast. You're literally saying the worst, most controversial things about people, and you can't allow Kim K to be booed to put on Netflix? What's going on here, bud?
Notice, though, how nobody said anything about him making out with his son. I guarantee that was in his rider. It's like, that's off limits. You can't say that.
Dude, have I ever told you that story? I went to my buddy's house in Poolesville. He was having a party, and one of his redneck friends, Jordan, comes up to me. He's wasted. He's like, hey, Kyle. He's like, let me ask you a question. You think Tom Brady's gay because you kiss his son on the lips? I was like, I don't know, Jordan.
I think the gay thing would be the worst of your concerns at that point. I think that the whole incestuous pedophile thing would be.
I was like, I don't know, Jordan. That just sounds weird to me. You know, he's like, I don't know, man. I don't think gay, man. You just want to kiss his son on the lips. Oh man, it was just so funny.
Obviously, he's not, dude. The dude won how many Super Bowls? Obviously.
You really let your wife do jujitsu, dude? All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Yeah, Tony Hitchcliff just killed that entire thing.
Tony's so funny. Yeah.
I didn't even watch it. I just saw like basically the highlights, the recap of it, and that was hysterical. It just goes on that rant. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode. We really appreciate if you made it this far. You're freaking champion. We'll see you guys again probably next week on Thursday, possibly Sunday. We'll see how it goes around, but I'll keep you guys updated on Twitter. So come follow me at the Burgundy Zone on Twitter, Instagram, everything. You can find Reed at Mike Reed 2156, and also you can find Hall or other co-host at TBZ Money Mike 301. You find us there, be able to get all the latest info and great opinions like Reed, who has now become an expert in the Drake and Kendrick beef.
Oh, people don't give me enough crap.
I know you should get a name tag that says that, expert.
I'm gonna get Drake tattooed on.
That'd be perfect for you, saying expert in the beef.
Yeah,
there you go.
I am an expert on beef.
Yeah, I know. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend. And I apologize for the bad comments tonight. If it rubbed you the wrong way, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the intro. We're just trying to have fun. It was Reed's idea, and I wanted to see how it would work out. Okay, and I think it was pretty well.
Okay,
I think it was
okay.
Well. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.